lionized mindset. It is said that performance and performance alone dictates the predator in any food chain. Therefore, a lionized mindset strives to be self-initiated, dynamic, cool under pressure, as well as stylish and debonair. So sit back as I roll out the red carpet, detailing and lacing you up through a series of 7 videos explaining 7 mental laws on establishing a foundation on attaining a lionized mindset. First and foremost, ladies and gents, let me start off by setting the tone with a movie clip for this particular episode, which is the 5th law, out of a series of 7, I might add, on lionizing your mindset. This particular clip comes from the Marvel Universe, and this particular movie is Spider-Man. Checkmate. Welcome to another episode of the Chronicles of Gameology. I'm your host, Neil K. Marcellus. I'm assuming parked on the tip of your tongue is the question: how does that clip from Spider-Man ties into this particular episode, and which, by the way, is the 5th law on lionizing your mindset? Let me ease your burden and jump right into it. That Spider-Man clip is a dramatic representation of a skill set that represents the mental and emotional asset that makes up this particular law. The skill set is associated with the Spider-Man character is the power of your intuition, commonly referred to from a street perspective as one's spider sense. Majority individuals have a pseudo understanding when it comes to intuition, and later on in this episode I'm going to give a definition that 9 times out of 10 you never heard before. The issue why majority of individuals have this pseudo understanding and is ineligible to utilize this spider sense can be understood by a psychological mishap that occurs on the chessboard among inexperienced players. Chess can be looked upon as an intellectual boxing match, and so I equate the pieces on the chessboard with certain strikes and punches within the sweet science of boxing. This psychological gap that I just spoke of that disqualifies an individual from using intuition occurs around utilizing the pawn. The pawn in chess can be equated to the jab in boxing. And if you got a lazy jab in boxing, then basically what would happen, you will find yourself laying horizontally on the mat. So, as you look at this image, the square with the blue X will be considered a psychological mishap. It is considered weak for the lighter shade player who is utilizing that pawn in that particular positions. The 2 pawns indicated by the blue question marks have both maneuvered past this particular square, and therefore is ineligible in order to control it. Basically, this takes place because of a lack of mental dexterity. In order for you to play the game of chess successfully and play the game of life, you must have mental dexterity. Mental dexterity is a toolbox that has many tools within it. One of the tools that is not utilized by inexperienced players is the ability to calculate. Calculation is the ability to foresee moves, visualize them, and evaluate the position before the move is ever made. There are 4 stages to calculation when it comes to the game of chess. The first stage is referred to as scanning your candidates, because your candidates represents the chess pieces that you are looking at in order to utilize. This is where intuition comes into play. Individuals that lack this ability to scan is equated to the lack of intuition or your spider sense. And this is the psychological gap that takes place. Because the 5th law on lionizing your mindset is a law that enables you to build bridges. Where if you lack this particular skill set, which is associated with the 5th law of lionizing your mindset, you do the opposite of that. You burn them. By all measures of what is rational and legitimate, no it isn't. This particular quote I'm about to recite will further flush out this psychological mishap that I've been describing when an inexperienced chess player haphazardly moves their pawns across the chessboard without any forethought to intuition and whatnot. This quote, it goes like this. When an individual reaches the end of what is capable of being perceived, then the individual is at the beginning of what is capable of being intuited. This particular image shows how your perception and your intuition work in tandem. To echo what I stated earlier when I spoke about the psychological mishap that occurs on the chessboard that disqualifies an individual from utilizing this 5th law on lionizing their mindset. This mishap takes place upon the chessboard because the individual do not take into account constants and variables. When you move a pawn, that represents a constant. The variables is the different colored shades and their relation to that particular move. To drill deeper into the issue surrounding this psychological mishap, I need you to take a look at this image once again and zero in on the 2 arrows that sits between your perception and your intuition. These 2 arrows represents what I refer to as a feedback loop mechanism. A feedback loop mechanism, it acquires and interprets information, and then you use that data in order to make more concise judgments and calculations. As you listen to this podcast, the thermostat that sits on your wall is an example of a feedback loop mechanism. It detects whether a room is too cold or too hot, and your heating unit or cooling unit operates based upon that data. Feedback loops are critically important if you want to be a thorough gameologist upon the chessboard of life. It allows you to scan and maneuver successfully upon the chessboard and throughout endeavors and outcomes that you have deemed that is important basically to you. Inexperienced players, those who are referred to as being switched off, who has a checkers mindset, they basically lump situations and affairs of life into stagnated categories and then decide to react, basically totally ignoring this concept of a feedback mechanism loop. And this is where the problem pivots around. Not having the confidence hampers this feedback mechanism loop. This term confidence is thrown around loosely upon these YouTube streets, and it usually is associated with something pseudo or something arbitrary. I'm going to provide you with a definition from a street and a game perspective on confidence that 9 times out of 10 you never heard before. Also, when this term confidence is brought up, it is brought up in a context that when men is having an unfavorable outcome when it comes to women, the main ingredient that will solve this is confidence. One thing that must be understood, confidence is not situational. The last episode, I spoke about the ability of not operating from your current negative. When I spoke about the law of lionizing your mind, which is law number 4, which is being a playmaker. So the concept of having confidence only in certain situations is a square mentality. As for the application in regards to confidence as it applies to women, this is what a gameologist frames it and views this situation as. Confidence is not that they would like me. Confidence instead is I'll be fine if they don't. Oh, before I jump into this definition, I need you to do me a solid and hit that like and subscribe button. Now, the ethos and substance of what is at the heart of confidence can be understood by decoding some symbolism surrounding a particular chess piece, which is, in this case, is the king. Check out this symbol sitting on top of this particular image. This particular image is a representation of the chess piece of the king. Individuals got it misconstrued because they considered this particular symbol to be a Christian cross. But in all actuality, this particular symbol is called a Teutonic. Now, peep game. This particular symbol really represents 4 individual triangles, positioned and configured where their points are orientated to signify the principle of contractional and consolidated power. See how their points are orientated inwardly? You can equate this to like a vortex or the whirlpool where it's consolidating at a particular point. Just like a tornado, what touches down and destroys everything within its path because all of that power is consolidated at that particular point. Now, undoubtedly you are thinking, how does this explanation and this definition of this symbol tie in with one being confident? Let me ease your burden and jump right into it. The definition of confidence from a street perspective, from a gameologist perspective, has to do with the concept, or has to do with one having a particular skill. And that is the skill of being relaxed and poised while being active in one's immediate situation. Indulge me for a moment while I unpack that particular statement. Individuals, which is opposite of this particular statement, falls under the category of being disqualified from using this 5th law of lionizing your mindset and this feedback loop mechanism that I've been mentioning. Individuals who fall under this category, they lack confidence in general. Basically, they stay within their lane and forego any attempt at moving in unfamiliar territories. Basically, they psych themselves out by rehashing and bringing past mishaps and transporting those bitches into their current situations. That's why in the last law of lionizing your mindset, which is the law number 4 of being a playmaker, I spoke about how men shouldn't move forward on their current negatives. Because when they move forward, or when you move forward on your current negatives, that saps your ability in order to be confident. The definition of confidence for a gameologist is an individual who has the ability to remain relaxed and poised within their immediate situation. Because individuals that possess this particular skill is neither projecting or anticipating future outcomes. And this not to discourage taking into account past situations. This just means that you do not take baggage from previous outcomes and drop them smack dead into your immediate situation. This disqualifies you from utilizing its feedback loop mechanism. The ability of a gameologist, the ability of a savvy chess player to remain relaxed and poised reaches back to that definition of how I explained that symbol and how it spoke about consolidating power to a particular point. You become consolidated within that immediate situation. And this is the ability to remain relaxed or have the presence of mind in that immediate situation. This gives you the ability to this gives you the ability to remain flexible. So you won't become rigid, where you will basically armchair quarterback the situation from the immediate present. This concept or this law of lionizing your mindset, law number 5, out of a series of 7, which utilizing your spider sense. This feedback mechanism is basically tapping into your instinct. And this concept has many chapters to it. And I will be doing many shows pertaining to this subject. But in order for you to start utilizing this 5th law of lionizing your mindset, you must remain consolidated within the immediate situation that you have deemed is important. So the skill of being confident, you call it up because it requires you to utilize this tool from the massive toolbox of gameology. In conclusion, the reason why chess is so difficult for so many individuals is because chess requires you to manage your errors. And this is why it is said that victory goes to the participant who make the next to the last mistakes. Checkmate. This concludes the explanation of the 5th law of lionizing your mindset, which utilizing your spider sense. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next episode.